All right, is my head in frame?
Here's a little shot of what I do to prep for a trip. It is still at home, and now instead of planes and automobiles, we got lawnmowers going off. So sorry about that. But every trip, but especially this one, I do a little permethrin on all of my clothing before I go out. It stays on there for I think like 20 washes or something like that. Don't quote me on it. You can look at it. But it's been really effective. I don't tend to get bothered by mosquitoes and insects too much, but we're going to Maine during black fly season, so I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of misery involved. But apparently, from what I've heard, this is a bad tick here, and so we got to make sure to get this permethrin onto our clothing. I've never found a tick on me on all my tick checks and doing like 600 miles. So I'm either incredibly lucky, or I think this permethrin works really well. The other reason I really like my tarp is I use it as a backsplash when I am spraying this permethrin around, and then you can make sure that the chemical doesn't get on any of your tables or anything like that, and then also your tarp is getting a little bit of insect repellent on it too. Kind of was by accident that I started doing that, but it really works well. I've kind of torn apart my back porch here, but here we got a bounce box that I'm going to be mailing a bunch of supplies I might need later on down the trail. All right, so first time I'm going to try this. It's going to be some bounce boxes, or at least a food delivery box. We got this one's going up to Shaw's, just on the other side of the 100-mile wilderness. It's the first hostel after being out in the woods for about 10 days. Just got some backup supplies, some more food, sunscreen in case I run out of stuff like that. And same thing for this one, is a little further on down the line, in another 100 miles or so. All right, bounce boxes are on their way. Let me tell you, it was a thing with those corks in there. It was a blue screen of death. It was a hard Windows reset. Beep, boop, pop, beep. When I explained that, yes, I am me, but also I'm sending it to me in another place. But we got through that. So these boxes I've never done before. Most of my other trips have only been about 5 days or so. So I've just brought everything with me. But this one, after the first day, I'm probably going to be out for 10 days or so. Hopefully gonna make it 9 before I'll hit a road that I can resupply. So that's where the first box is going. And then I think probably a couple weeks after that, I sent another box, so they're kind of staggered in case I decide to resend either one of those further on down. There's nothing too important in them that I can't lose, just like resupplying sunscreen or first aid stuff. There's a lot of freeze-dried meals in them. You can at the places, the hostels and things like that, they have stuff to buy, and it's a good way to support them. But there were a lot of really generous people in my life in the last couple weeks that have given me I'm kind of drowning in gift cards right now and very appreciative of it. So I bought a bunch of very bougie trail meals, which I usually don't do, just to save some weight. Another thing that I wanted to talk about before I took off, actually this video is supposed to be about a couple things. I wanted to talk about how you get your bag to where you're going, but also it occurred to me last night, I was talking with some friends, and they were still, even though they know that I go out hiking and they've gone hiking with me, and
I've been telling them about this. They weren't really clear on where exactly I was going and what exactly I was doing. So let me give you a little bit of information about that.
Mount Katahdin is where I'll be starting. It's in northeast Maine. It is the northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail, and every year several hundred hikers who have made their way there from Georgia celebrate at the top next to that sign. The mountain is a mile high, and from the last road crossing, the entrance to the park, it's about 5 miles of trail. I'll be spending the night before and the night after at Katahdin Stream Campground at the base of the mountain, which is what most people do since it tends to be about a 10-hour day. Mount Katahdin is a sacred place for the Wabanaki people who have been here in this region for about 11,000 years. One of their traditions is that Katahdin is the place where the spirit world and the human world meet, and the top of Mount Katahdin is actually home to a spirit named Pamola, with the body of a man, the head of a moose, and the wings of an eagle. Every year the mountain is closed so that the Wabanaki people can still have their annual gathering at the base of the mountain and have a ritual hike to the top. Modern people have not had a chance to screw it up yet because the entire Baxter State Park, 20,000 acres, which includes Mount Katahdin and the 100-mile wilderness, is actually all still private land. I know you think I'm wrong because it's right there in the name. It is Baxter State Park, after all. But it's a state-run, but it's actually owned by a private trust that was started by Governor Percival Baxter. He was an interesting guy, period. He came from a wealthy family, and the guy really loved his dog. They preserved the scratch marks his dog made outside of his office, and he actually ordered the estate's flags to be flown at half-mast on the day that his dog died, which apparently caused quite a kerfluffle. When Maine failed to raise the appropriate amount of funds to buy the lands of Mount Katahdin and the 100-mile wilderness, he actually decided on his own to buy it with family funds and donate it to the state of Maine. He actually outbid Teddy Roosevelt because he felt like the president and the federal government weren't going to do enough to preserve the area. The 100-mile wilderness is just south of Mount Katahdin, and as in the name, it's 100 miles of woods used by logging industry and a defunct paper mill industry. It runs between Millinocket up in the north and Monson in the south. After a brutal day of climbing Katahdin up and down, the terrain is actually fairly flat but filled with slimy rocks and roots that you have to be careful over. Towards the southern half of Maine, it does get to be quite a bit more elevation. All right, but back to preparation.
And boom, there you go. I got to do some more messing with it to get the food that I want to get into it and a couple other accoutrements inside. But this is basically the idea. Once you're all set with this bag, you can go ahead and check that. I'll let you know if it's a problem here tomorrow. But it looks, by all indications, it should work. I also got a carry-on. I'm going to take some stuff that I don't have to take in this bag because I can't get everything into this little sack. But just make sure you know that you label it. I went with the carry-on. I actually bought something from Goodwill for like $3. It was some kid's backpack, and I'm gonna go ahead and throw that away once I get up there too. That way I'm not dealing with losing any of the luggage that we have around the house. Make sure that you label your luggage. And what? No, I'm not going to show you my address, you weirdos.
I caught an early morning flight. Doggo knew something was up.
Welcome aboard the freight train. Please hold on. This train is departing.
So here I am basking in my heavenly glow. Heavenly. Here in Atlanta. Things have gone pretty swimmingly so far. We actually arrived early and I actually slid into the gate right as they were boarding, and as I told the family, I managed to make it through security without getting scolded, which is a fairly uncommon occurrence for me. I usually manage to screw something up. I did get pulled aside, but I figured that was going to happen because I have a backpack filled with trail food, freeze-dried food inside of a bear canister. So if anything has ever looked like a B-O-M-B in a bag before, I'm sure that mine did. So I knew I wasn't going to make it through, but they didn't blink too much once they opened it up, which I'm very thankful for. So I got to waste a couple hours here and get on the flight to Bangor, and everybody cross your fingers that my bag makes it from one airport to another airport to another airport. Atlanta is actually pretty close to the southern terminus of the trail. So on the flight, I got to watch a screen as our plane flew the entire length of the trail in 2.5 hours instead of walking it in 5.5 months. Hiking south from Maine is actually a pretty uncommon way to do it. About 90% of people usually start down in Georgia and go north. So I was fully expecting there might be a couple weeks before I actually met some people to hang out with. So I was really surprised when I hadn't even gotten out of the airport before a guy walked up to me and said, "You're a hiker, aren't you?" He actually was doing the same thing and had noticed that we had the same type of bag. So we went ahead and got an Uber together to the nearby bus terminal that will take us up to the town of Medway, which was where our hostel's going to be as we wait for a good weather day to hit Katahdin. The fellow passengers at the bus terminal were an interesting bunch. For instance, I learned, "Bro, you gotta be careful. The cops down in Bar Harbor are dressing up like prostitutes." The bus ride was great, clean and comfortable through beautiful country. I did miss my first moose sighting though when we almost hit one, but I was too busy trying to pick myself up off the floor after slamming on the brakes. There are several hostels that put people up either before or after heading out into the woods, and they do food drops halfway through the 100 miles, so you don't have to carry all your food the entire time. After triple checking that our gear has made it through the plane ride intact and without any missing pieces, we got some workshops from the thru hikers that run the place that helped make us more efficient and told us what we had in store coming up. This afternoon, we're going to get a shuttle to Katahdin Stream Campground, spend the night, and start our ascent early tomorrow morning in what promises to be really sunny weather. See you then. You know, I have been accused of plagiarism before. Their words, not mine.